welcome to episode 53 of the Double ETF podcast. I hope you guys are doing great. So, with me tonight, I have back on the show, Woody Meacham. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Patrick. Thanks for having me back.
Awesome. Always a pleasure. And back again, Hector Contreras. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. And welcome back. Nick, next we have Nick. How are you, Nick? Jesus, off the rails already.
God damn it, Patrick, for real.
Yeah, Jesus, I have barely started and it's...
It's okay.
Nick, back. Welcome back. All right. And back again, Mike Drew. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thank you again for having me on.
Always a pleasure. All right. So, as always, we will cover some recent movies and some recent TV shows. And we also have a few questions, as usual. We had 2 questions last episode, and Woody was not here, unfortunately, but he is here tonight. So let's backtrack and ask Woody 2 questions first, and then I'm going to have 2 new questions for everyone else. So, Woody, first question is, give me the biggest movie that you've never seen, like E.T., Wizard of Oz, something like that, a big movie that you've never seen.
Right. So the thing I go with this is because I'm older than most of you guys. So I've never seen Jaws, and I've never seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Nice.
Like back in the day, those were the ones that you were supposed to see.
Were you absent that day at where everyone went?
No.
He was abducted those days.
Right, exactly. But the whole thing about building like in Close Encounters where he builds the tower out of mashed potatoes, I knew everything about both of those movies. I've never seen them.
So was it bad timing, or your friends went that day and you did not, or?
No. Well, because first of all, I lived in the country. So it wasn't like going to a movie was a big deal growing up. So it was literally a half-hour, 45-minute drive to the nearest theater. And if we were going to go, it was something everybody wanted to see. And by the time I hit a teenage, we'd go all the time. But those earlier movies, the only reason I got to see Star Wars was because the minister for the church we went to, the minister's son, described it to me. He actually described the entirety of the movie to me that I was like, this is so cool, that I told my parents, we have to go see this.
Did he have like toys and then this spaceship does this and choo.
No toys at all. It's one of the best stories anybody ever told me. But so that was why in 77 I got to see Star Wars. But okay. Jaws obviously was early, but Close Encounters still, those are 2 that everybody always goes, what? Never seen them.
All right.
Jaws should have been the very first movie I ever saw because it came out months after I was born. And my parents and some of their friends went to a drive-in and they wouldn't let them in because I, like a newborn, they wouldn't let them in because I was in the back seat. And my dad was like, he's not going to watch it. Like, I promise. But yeah.
I think we may have talked about this before. I hate lakes and ocean.
Okay. I don't think we have.
I hate them.
Okay.
So get me in the water. Like, I'm fine in a pool.
Is it fear like you think the shark is going to come jump the ocean into the lake?
No, but I already don't like those bodies of water. Why would I want to watch a thing about a shark that's in those bodies of water that gives me even more anxiety about getting in those bodies of water?
As a Long Islander, I'm offended.
Okay.
Atlantic Ocean doesn't count. It's just the Pacific.
Yes. You're very specific in your hatred.
Pacific. Okay. Pacific.
Yes. Oh,
boom. Oh, where is it? There it is.
Yes.
Very nice.
All right. Okay. So yeah, that's good. And second question would be, what is the highest price you've paid for a live event?
So I count meals as live events.
Sure.
Because for me, they're very performative. So I'm going to trick my way into this one. And it was actually when I was in Quebec City a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have to ask you, Patrick, how to pronounce the name of this. T-A-N-I-E-R-E.
T-A-N-I-E-R-E. Tanière.
And then with a 3.
Okay.
Like a little 3 next to it.
Like Alien 3, like the little...
Yes, with a superscript.
No, actually it is. That is it.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
So it was a 24-course meal.
24?
What?
Yep.
Jesus.
With wine pairing. Okay.
Did you fast for a month and before you had this meal?
That was actually our second fancy meal of the trip. Not our first one, but our second one. And it was $500 a piece.
Jesus.
Holy shit.
So was it like a meal every hour? Like 24 meals in 24 hours?
No. We were there 3.5 hours. But it's in what I assume was the slums of Quebec City back in the day, but now it's that art district where the vernacular goes down from the hotel down to it.
Yes.
It's in there, and they IM you a code, and you go to this alleyway.
Oh boy.
And all that's in this alleyway is a yellow door.
This is all Breaking Bad.
Oh, dude, it is totally. You punch in the code, and you go into what used to be kind of the catacombs of the city.
Eyes wide shut, man.
And the one room is the bar, and then the next room is like the Hall of Justice with a big U-shaped table with chairs, and it's right where the kitchen is. And then the last part, it looks like you're in Harry Potter. They have these sticks hanging from the ceiling that look like candles.
I think you went to see a prostitute because I don't know if those were candles.
And I think you got drugged on the way there.
But seriously, toward the end of this, follow me on the Wooden Chef on Instagram. There's pictures of this entire thing.
Anybody remember this part in Ghostbusters 2 when he has like that psychic show and the lady tells her story about how she was at a bar and she had a drink that somebody had served her, and then she went to his hotel room and he told her he was an alien and it was a spaceship and he was under mind control, and and the whole time Bill Murray is just staring at her and like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing on this show? That's kind of the direction where you were going, Woody.
But I think something that you didn't mention, Woody, I'm pretty sure that if you enter the wrong code, it takes you into another room with a big plastic sheet on the ground and they shoot you in the back of the head. And your trip ends right there.
You get Pesci right there.
Yes.
Right, exactly. See, I thought you were going to go with the tiger. There's a tiger. You know, the classic choose two doors and one's a tiger and one's a beautiful woman. I was going to yes and you that one.
So just because I did the math, so that's $20.83 a plate for $500.
Well, and wine, Canadian.
What kind of plates? Because we want to make sure that it's worth it. Like $20.83, you're not getting like a pub burger and fries. You're getting like
no, but you're getting curated
high-end meals, 5-star meals,
fine dining food. Yeah, it's
all Michelin, like Michelin Star rated type food.
Oh, that's a good question.
No, they don't have Michelin in Quebec.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that part.
So,
Quebec.
But no, it's one of the highest rated places in Quebec, and that's why we went.
Woody, I have a sweet tooth. Out of the 24, how many are desserts?
4.
4?
Ah, that's not bad.
That's 6.
How many are appetizers?
About 5.
And did you enjoy all of them?
I don't remember hating any of them.
Okay.
So, I mean, and it's the experience is mainly why I do it, but it was probably the best meal I've ever had.
Meals.
So
Oh, shit. Yes, meals.
yeah.
I didn't know that we didn't have any Michelin stars in the province. I didn't know that. I thought there would be one in Montreal.
I think Toronto might, but
Okay.
it's very specific by cities.
Well, they also get renewed, right? I think they have to renew it every however many years. So maybe there were some and there aren't anymore.
Yeah, that's true. And just for our listeners, 500 Canadian is 370 US. So to give you a
500 sounds cooler.
it does. It does.
500.
Absolutely. So, oh wow, okay, that was
Wow.
honestly, and I'm not being ironic. Cool story, honestly. That's pretty awesome.
Seriously.
24 cars.
And they couldn't
Jesus.
spring for like Tony Bennett to do some sort of crooning during their dinner or anything?
No, I didn't need it, dude. Did not need it.
And was the place full? Like, were there many
Oh yeah.
customers there?
No, it
Okay.
was and we were there on a Thursday.
Wow.
Yeah, but anyway, go check out the pictures on my Instagram.
Is that like an every week thing or like
Yeah, that's their gig.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just want to watch the menu again.
But when you see a show like The Bear, which I think we're going to talk about a little bit later, while you look at the effort that goes into doing this stuff, literally the menu was a 5-6 page book
Yes, chef.
that was. If I was thinking about it, I should have brought it down just to show you guys, but that's not really good for the listeners.
Is it
But-
bigger than Kevin Hartbarger's
Easy.
No, it's not. No, it's
Easy.
not bigger than its list book. But
Okay. Yeah, we
That's
are
insane.
just all of us. We are stunned.
All right, so now we have homework assignments to go.
Yes.
I gotta find out where the nearest. I have never been into a Michelin Star restaurant. Obviously, that's not super common, but that should be on my bucket list, and I'm putting it in right now. Reminder.
Yeah, you want to look for just tasting menu. That's mainly what they're called. So if you find something with a tasting menu, that means a multi-course meal. Like my wife and I just went to one a few weeks ago with a Persian place that just opened up.
I saw your post on that. That looked delicious.
That was 8 courses for like $85,
Oh, okay.
which was good.
Nice. Okay. I'm trying to remember what was the city with the highest concentration of Michelin-starred restaurants in the world. I'm trying to remember, and I can pull it.
It's normally either Paris, New York, Singapore for density. Singapore's got a bunch of them.
Okay.
Yeah, those tend to be the big ones, but I don't know. It's just an easy way to pick a restaurant for me because I'm a big food nerd.
Do any of them offer Groupons for more people?
Do they get a toy with the meal?
Yeah. Today's toy is the Nerf gun.
Like you mentioned wine pairings. Was that for every course?
No, just the middle part.
Okay.
Because I've done dinners at my house where we did a 12-course meal with wine pairings. Boy, did people get hammered. Oh,
yeah.
maybe not. We're not going to do that one again.
I was just going to say, I just Googled it. The answer, by the way, as of January 2022 is Tokyo.
Tokyo.
That makes
Tokyo
sense.
has 203 of them.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. Okay.
And out of the top 4, 3 of them are in Japan. Paris is number 2, Kyoto, and Osaka.
All
Oh,
right.
wow.
Wow. And I can hear Woody booking a flight to Tokyo right now.
Yeah, one of my coworkers just went to one in Tokyo, and she showed me the pictures, and it's fantastic.
Might as well just ask, would you have an answer if we kept it specific to concerts or sports events? What would be the most expensive one then?
I didn't really have one. That's why I went to food.
Okay.
So because like sporting events, I always go to StubHub and get cheap tickets.
Okay.
So there's never been a band like the Stones or Springsteen or something like these big ones that have been coming out now that it wasn't worth it. So like I said, I'd rather spend my time with food.
If the Stones came with a tasting menu,
Possibly.
Well, they come with a tongue, so you know.
There you go. Hey,
That'd be one of the courses, exactly.
Not bad.
And some brown sugar. And
Ooh.
hey,
could keep going with that.
it tastes so good.
Okay, so we can move on to the newest questions. Which movie exceeded your expectations the most? Whether it was a blockbuster or I just throw this movie on and it turned out to be amazing, doesn't matter. So we will go back to Woody for this one. What do you have?
So I don't know if it's recency bias, but it's Barbie.
Okay.
That new Barbie movie. Everybody was like, "Oh, go see it." Blah, the Barbenheimer, blah blah blah. And I'm like, my daughter had gone and seen it, and she's 24. And I said, "What do you rate it?" She goes, "I'd give it a 4 out of 10." I'm like, "Oh, all right, well, whatever."
Jesus.
Right. I was like, "Wow!" And they all dressed up and went to it. Like all of her friends, they went downtown Chicago and went to it. And so before Mike Wiles' birthday party, where I finally got to meet and hug Hector, which was the time of my year. I had some time to kill. So I went by myself to the theater and watched Barbie. And I don't know what I expected, but no, I didn't dress in pink, but I could have. But I was so surprised where that movie went because I thought it was just going to be some goofy, fish out of water story. But when it takes that turn about the patriarchy and Ken goes down doing all the macho horse thing when he goes back to Barbie World and the feminist kind of speech that America Ferrara gave, I walked out of that thing. I've been telling everybody I can meet to go see it because everybody's like, "Oh, it's stupid Barbie." I'm like, no. It's not what you think it is. And so of late, that's been the one that just kind of blew the doors off for me.
Nice. Hector, what do you have for that question?
I actually ended up with 2 because I had one that was more recent and one that was older. But I will just say the old one was Pulp Fiction because when I saw that in the theater, I'd never really seen anything like that. at that time. When I went to see it, it was at a sold out theater, and I went with my sister and her boyfriend, and they wanted to leave. They were bored, and I was like, "No, I'm not
Wow.
going anywhere." But it was one of those things where like everyone just kind of like stared at the screen, didn't really know what to do. You know, art house films and things that said con in the previews, and it's not something that mainstream audiences are really used to. It was all Hollywood blockbusters. So when that was a sold out theater and packed for weeks, it was like I was still shocked after I saw like this has changed. It's everything. So that was my answer for the first time, for the oldest one. But then more recently, I was gonna say Doctor Sleep, specifically the director's cut that came to Blu-ray, because that was the one I saw. I didn't see. I actually didn't see it in the theater because I had such a bad taste in my mouth after The Dark Tower being so awful. And I was like, I'm done with Stephen King adaptations for a while, so I'm not gonna. This is gonna suck. I don't want to watch it.
It took you a while because there's been a ton of bad movies.
Right? Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, but more recently, that Dark Tower one was so bad.
Yes.
And then I think like a year or two later is when Doctor Sleep came out. So I said, I'm not gonna see that. I'll wait for video because this is just. I hadn't read the book either, so I was just gonna go fresh in. But then when word of mouth came around, I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And then I watched it on video with the director's cut, and it's like half an hour longer, but it's segmented perfectly, like you're actually watching the book on screen. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So I would recommend that one. But that also floored me. I was like, I hope they make more like this instead of The Dark Tower.
And was that the one that came after The Shining? Is that what that's supposed to be?
Yeah. It's like the boy, he grows up and he's got all sorts of problems, but then there's this whole cult.
Why does he have problems?
He had to make a movie with Stanley Cooper.
Yeah.
That's enough trauma for a lifetime.
Yep. Yes.
I forgot who directed that movie.
Mike Flanagan.
Okay.
Yeah. So Mike, and then that pioneered his next, what, did Haunting come before that or after that? I can't remember. I think it might have been after he did The Haunting of Hill House. But then, yeah, then that, and then Midnight Mass, and then so forth. So he's been on a roll since.
Dr. Sleep 2019, Gerald's Game 2017.
Yes, Gerald's Game, which is also messed up.
Which one were you thinking of?
Haunting of Hill House. I think that was right around that time.
Okay, 2018. So the year before.
Okay, and I didn't see that until right after I saw Dr. Sleep.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Hector. Nick, what about you?
I have answers. I kind of went the same route with Hector. The first one, I always go to my movie club when I think of movies that exceed my expectation. And a lot of times it's movies that I had not seen. And one of them was I, Tonya, that always stuck out to me. And we discussed it about 2 years ago. And I was floored at how it's a good movie for people who don't like sports movies to enjoy a sports movie, because it's kind of a mesh between a biopic, but it's also a mockumentary because it breaks the fourth wall a lot and it's very playful. But it's also just a really terrific performances. And it's funny because Woody mentioned Barbie. It has Margaret Robbie, who was nominated for an Oscar for playing Tanya Hardin. And I think Greg Klutzby, who directed that, is, I think, one of the best filmmakers around. He did Lars and the Real Girl, and he did Cruella, and his latest movie is Dumb Money, which is coming out next month. And I always find him very interesting, like the films that he does, and that's just a really great movie. I highly recommend it. It's just one that I was like, okay, we're going to do I, Tonya, I guess, and then when I watched it, I was just completely enamored by it, and it was like the fastest 2 hours of a movie I can recall in a long time. There's just so much happening at such a rapid pace, but it's completely flawless, I think. So that would be my answer for like an older movie.
I think that movie got lost in the shuffle of Oscars nominees because there were a lot of heavy hitters that year, and that I'm trying to remember, did that just get nominated for performance, or was there a screenplay?
It was nominated for a few because Allison Janney won an Oscar for that movie, like for Best Supporting Actress. That was the year of The Shape of Water and Three Billboards, and
yeah, there was a bunch. Yeah,
oh, right.
Yeah, and like Gary Oldman won his Oscar, and Get Out, and yeah, it kind of got lost in the shuffle. But it was a really strong year, 2017.
What about your second movie?
My second movie that I was really surprised with was Marcel the Shell with Shoes On.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you a really funny story really fast. In between the movie club, name that tune, people will forgive me. This was like 6 months ago. I look on my AMC pass and I'm like, oh, like what is playing this weekend? And I saw Marcel the Shell with Shoes On had one showing at like 12:30, and I had to make the decision: do I go to name that tune or do I see this movie that I've wanted to see for like months? So I went to go see the movie. And skip name that tune.
I am offended. I am outraged.
I know the game you hosted. It's like, I was like, oh no, but no, it's just a really wonderful like hybrid of animation and live action. And I always love Jenny Slate. I think she's very underrated comedic actress, and I just found it very quirky without being too quirky, and it was sentimental without being too sentimental. And I just really enjoyed it, and I just love the playfulness of this movie. It's like it's a good movie that you could probably watch with like a teenager, and it's not hokey, but it's like endearing. And that was one of my favorite movie experiences this year.
Nice. Okay. Thank you, Nick. Mike, what about you?
I've told this story many times, but obviously during the pandemic, my son and my family and I, we all wanted to go back and find movies that we hadn't watched and whatever. And one of the ones that I remember standing out that I actually really liked was Paddington 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a great film. And you know what? The first one was okay, but the second one was like, I really enjoyed it. And, like having Brendan Gleeson as the chef in the prison, and, it was very endearing, and it really kind of took some twists that you're not thinking, hey, that bear's going to end up in prison before you start the movie. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and if you like those family friendly movies like I've talked about so many times on here, that was one that really stood out for me. I really enjoyed it.
There's a best prison break in any movie.
The Paddington movies are like chicken soup for the soul. They're just so good, and they're wholesome. Yeah. And Mike, that was the perfect answer. That movie like lifted my spirits. I had COVID when I rewatched it, and it like made me feel better, even though I felt like shit. Yeah. And yeah,
I still haven't seen it.
Oh, really?
It's on Max now.
Is it?
Oh, you should watch it. Watch it with your daughter, dude. It's so good.
I will.
Yeah, the second one's great. I mean, the first one's good, but the second one I think probably
so
better.
I think I mentioned it on a previous episode. That could have been my answer, actually. That was one that I was like, yeah, okay, this is going to be corny. And I stumbled into it, and I actually loved it. I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
That bear, man, he's so adorable.
Yes.
Patrick likes something sweet?
Yes, yeah, that happened like once every 5 years or something.
His heart grew 3 times that day.
Yeah.
It wasn't a Star Wars remake or anything like that. So.
No blind Jedis.
Yeah, those make me angry. That's the other end of the spectrum. And actually, I never answer my own questions, but I can give my answer to this one. Mine would be Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was in college when George Miller started talking about making that movie. And I was, okay, yeah, this is never going to happen. And the third one was kind of disappointing. And this is going to be horseshit. This is going to be unwatchable. And like 20 plus years later, it came out in 2015. I watched it on IMAX, and I was absolutely blown away. And that would be my answer to that question.
Yeah, that was probably the trailer I watched the most that year. Yeah.
I've seen that movie more times in theaters than any movie ever. I've seen it like 6 times in theaters when it was originally released. I love the kinetic energy. Because when I first saw it, it was in an IMAX screening, and I was like totally just blown away. Because like you, I thought this is a franchise that's been dead for how many decades, right? But then it had Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron, and I was mesmerized. Like I saw it like 6 times.
I don't go to the theater anymore, and even back then in 2015, I didn't go often. But I watched Sicario and Mad Max like a couple of weeks apart, and that was a good year for movies. And actually, I'm gonna throw another question in there. Which movie did you see the most in theater? Nick, we have your answer. Woody, what is it?
Geez, you didn't prep me for this one.
Sorry.
I never go back and see it. It would be Jurassic Park twice.
Okay.
Or The Doors. I saw The Doors twice.
Okay.
The Val Kilmer Doors.
Not the Carrie Scott doors.
Right.
Those are the best type of doors, quite
Inside.
honestly.
Inside
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah, inside joke, 100 miles an hour. Hector, what about you?
A movie that I went back to see.
Or no, that you've seen in the theater the most.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit? I think we saw like 6 or 7 times in the theater when that came out. That one was random. One that I went to more recently, Children of Men, we saw 3 times. That was like, I have to bring a friend to see this. Like, I can't believe this. This is like, for me, it was like shockingly good.
This is too depressing to watch alone. Yes.
Yeah. Hey, you want to be depressed? Let's go be depressed.
we were like, you gotta be as sad as I am right now. Ready? All right. Okay. And onions and let's cry. I must have been going through an emo phase. I'm trying to think of anything even more recent than that. Oh, I saw Everything Everywhere All at Once. I took a friend to see it a second time. So yeah, I think that was it.
Mike, what about you?
I've only ever gone to one movie more than once, and I went twice. And the only reason I went twice was because it was my first year at university, and I was in a film study class. And I went to see Higher Learning twice because
Wow.
I wanted to see it, and then I took notes.
It's another bummer.
Yeah, so that is the only film I believe that I've ever seen more than once. Because yeah, I'm like Woody. I don't, I might watch it again at home, but I've never purposely gone to watch another one other than that.
The John Singleton movie with Ice Cube?
Yep.
Yeah,
And-
Yeah.
Really?
Lawrence Fishburne. Yeah, because I did a paper on it. So
In higher education? No, I'm kidding.
yeah, well, it wasn't like you could go online and find some bad cam version of it and just watch that, 5 times while I wrote stuff down. I had to actually, what does Michael Rappaport say at the end when he, does this? And spoiler, blows his own brains out. So like,
Oh, what? I haven't seen
yeah,
it.
30 years, you haven't seen it, you ain't seen it. It's like, what did he say? Like, just stuff like that. I think the second time was purposely to just write things down.
I got you guys beat. When the Return of the Jedi came out in 83, okay, so I was 11. I live 2 minutes away from a shopping mall, and back then that shopping mall had a movie theater in it. And on Tuesdays, they had, like, it was super cheap. It was like $2 or something. And they didn't clear the theater between showings. So what I would do, I was 11. Come on, give me a break. I would go to the 7 p.m. showing and then stay for the next one. So like 2 for the price of 1. And total, I saw that movie in the theater 13 times.
What a criminal.
They thought you worked there.
Yes.
He picks
11-year-old
up a
me.
broom and he's just
Right,
like,
picked up a broom. Right, exactly.
he gets like a fake name tag he puts on.
Exactly.
Oh, I love it.
So there you go. That's the
13.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great one.
Okay, so that's first question and a bonus question squeezed in between. Okay, second question. What is the craziest thing you've ever seen in person at a live event? Woody?
This would have been probably 2001. We were at the Oakland Stadium and we saw the A's and the Giants play. And about 4 rows in front of us. Oh, sorry. It was an Oakland game. I don't know if they were playing the Giants, but they may have been. I don't know. I just know it was in Oakland Stadium. About 4 rows in front of us, this guy kind of leans over, like in front of himself, and then he's laying on the ground. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of people start getting around him. And all of a sudden, a stretcher comes down, and a guy died in front of us, and they took him out.
Oh, Jesus.
And this is like row 20 off of the dugout. So it's not like it was like up where anybody could hide it. And it was wild. And so I was like, I saw a dead body. So that was the wildest thing I've seen.
Oh boy.
Did he look old?
I wasn't paying attention at, it was the back of a guy's head, but he was laid down. He was leaning kind of head between his legs for like way too long kind of thing. And then you saw people around him getting concerned and that type of thing. And then, yeah. And then the way they built a wall of people around him, like the security people, kind of like if there's ever a wreck on the highway and they throw those things up so people don't stop and look. They basically did that with security people and then kind of put him on a stretcher, but they didn't cover his face. They just made it look like he wasn't doing well. But, no. He was very much dead. So that was pretty wild.
Did that end up? Was that like on the news? Like, because usually that's kind of shit ends up.
I don't know. We were there on vacation.
Oh,
this was like
gotcha.
2001, so it was even early internet and whatever. I'm like, what additional news could I bring to bear? The guy was dead. So,
Did you watch the rest of the game?
yeah. I mean, they just kept it going. So,
Okay.
Crazy.
Wow. All right. Okay.
Give it up for the dead guy.
All right.
The 1, 2, 3, 4.
The 7th inning stretch.
Right.
New version.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So let's try and beat that story now. Jesus. I should have gone to you last, Woody. All right.
Woody After Dark.
Yes. Okay, so Hector, what do you have?
Yeah, this is going to be kind of a cheat, but I'll explain. So my wife, Angela, we're going out to like eat, and we had a few drinks, and we were going to go stop in and go to some sort of like, there was a civic center nearby that had some radio festival. I think it was like the CYY. I don't even remember. It was some sort of like rock and punk and ska. I don't know. It was like all hodgepodge of different bands that were playing, and it was packed. It was a good sized crowd. I mean, it was, like probably, any type of arena show, but like all these bands, I couldn't even remember any of them to this day. But I just remember we were in the general audience section, which would have been like the pit section. Everyone's standing, and this was 2002, so we were probably the only ones that could drink. So we were getting drinks and having a good time, and then I remember us standing up and jumping and having a good time. And the next thing you know, I look over and Angie's on the floor, and I said, "Oh boy, what just happened?" I'm looking around, see if anyone saw anything, and I'm talking to her, and she's upset because she dislocated her knee in the show, and so I have to carry her out from the mosh pit to, I don't know, the medical center. It was like, which was way the F away. Like it seemed like too far away. But I'm carrying her, and I take her to where they have all the people that are there for security and medics and whatnot. And they put her on a stretcher, and they're like, "You have to take her to the hospital." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't know where my car is because I don't know where." I'm not drunk, but I'm not exactly like, I don't know where we are because we went to Portland. This is probably like my first or second time I'd ever been to Portland in Maine. So I knew we had parked in a garage, and at this time it's already like almost 11 o'clock at night. So I'm trying to find the pass in and I find it, and it says the garage, but it doesn't have an address. So I had to go to anything that's open, which is like almost 11 o'clock at night, which is nothing. So I'm asking somebody like, "Oh, wait, where's the garage?" And they're like, "Okay, you got to go two blocks up, 1 block to the right, and then another block up." And they're like giving me directions. Like, I'm like, "Can you write this down? I have no idea where I am." So I'm racing across town to find my car, and I'm running. And it's like, it probably was only a half a mile away, but I ran like 3 miles because I got lost like 17 times. And then finally found the car and drove back. And by that time, she's just like, they gave her like a bunch of water, some food. She had like a whole buffet spilled out for her because they had like some sort of like, everyone felt bad for her. They're like, "Oh my God, okay, I got comp food. I'll give it to you." So she was just sitting back. And then, so I took her to Maine Medical, and they were able to pop her back knee. And then we still ended up going out to dinner after that because it was an all night diner. So we're eating at like 1 o'clock in the morning because, yeah, we're crazy kids.
Jesus. All right. Thank you, Hector.
Yeah.
Nick, what about you?
So the date, October 5th, 1999, will forever be etched in my mind. Drew, as a wrestling fan, what happened that day? You might know this.
Is that the Owen Hart incident?
No, that was like 5 months before. It's Droz's injury that happened. So I might have told the story on this podcast or another podcast. I was in attendance for that show, and it was a SmackDown tape-in at the Nassau Coliseum on Long Island in 1999. I was about to turn 10, and like SmackDown for most of its existence until like in most recent years, it was pre-taped. So usually they would tape it on a Tuesday and air it on like a Thursday or a Friday. And they had this match. It was D'Lo Brown and Droz, and they had their match. And D'Lo Brown was doing one of his moves. I think it was a power bomb on Droz, and he landed on his head. And it was a horrific incident to watch in front of like 10, 15,000 people because you saw someone become a quadriplegic in front of you. And it was a very traumatic experience, to say the least, because they had to stop the show for, I would say, at least an hour to get him out of the ring. And it's one of those things where, as a wrestling fan, they say that it's fake, right? Like it's predetermined in that sense. But there's always that sense of like real life danger, and they're prone to have accidents. And sometimes, like Drew just said, Owen Hart fell to his death earlier that year because of a freak injury. The same with Draws. And, it's just very sad to see someone at the prime of his career or life, and he becomes quadriplegic. It's a cautionary tale in many ways, because there was a lot of factors that contributed to that. One that was like loose clothing. That's what he kind of wore to the ring. But then, they started to kind of reassess, like, well, what are the attires that wrestlers wear, and maybe not use certain moves. And I mean, there have been accidents before and since, but that's just one that I saw as a child that really stuck with me. And it's very, like, people are crying. I think everyone was crying in the audience almost, because it's just, it's horrific to watch. And luckily it wasn't live on TV and it didn't air. It's kind of similar to, I mean, Drew would know this, like with Big E, like where he had that horrific injury, that neck injury. Luckily it wasn't as severe as Strauss's, but yeah, just awful to see that happen to someone so young.
They still love it, but the WWE always loved pro athletes, right? And Draws
Yes.
used to play for, I think, the Broncos.
Bronco,
And he played for them for a few years. And then, yeah, I mean, if you ever saw any pictures or interviews with him afterwards, it was quite sad. And actually, he only just passed this year,
Yes.
I think, right?
June
Yeah.
30th. I was just looking that up.
Yeah. So, that was horrific. I remember that happening. I didn't obviously see it because they didn't show it, and I wouldn't have watched it anyway. But
They never aired it. And even when they did air parts of it, remember they used to have the Don't Try This at Home montage that they would have, especially in the Attitude Era, and kind of not as much recently, but
it's at the start of video games now.
yeah. And they would show like the stretcher, but not the actual match. It's in their library. They're never going to show it probably. But yeah.
Patrick, were you hoping for happier ones?
I got happy.
Well, I mean, what's the craziest thing? I
is
did
crazy,
not
all right.
expect good, happy stuff, to be honest. So it is on par with
And then
my.
a cannon shot out confetti, and it was.
I will bring this up though, because I've got two happy ones.
Okay, so Mike, what about you?
So I've got two fairly quick. So I just looked up the date, January 6, 1990. I saw Aerosmith at the Sky Dome in Toronto, which is now called the Rogers Centre. And if you've ever been there, there's the 200 section, which is like it's not very big, maybe 20 rows that goes around the dome. And I was in the 200s. And when Aerosmith, I'll never forget this, when Aerosmith played Angel, now this is the start of 1990, so that the big hair of the 80s is still there. This guy whipped out his lighter, and his girlfriend's hair was, she put a small hole in the ozone with the amount of hairspray she had used to come to the concert. He was like, woo, it was a little, 3 sheets to the wind. And he caught his girlfriend's hair when and it went up like a Led Zeppelin. It just, half her head was basically gone because they patted her, but it shot up like a and it stunk out the section. If you've never smelt burnt hair, it's one of the worst smells in the world. And that's one. So I remember that happening.
And was she okay?
She was okay. I think it was just the only part that was flammable was her hair. It's just and it was gone.
So quick it goes up. That was actually probably better that she had all the stuff in it.
Probably. And it wouldn't have gone up as quickly, but it did. And oh my God. And it was just smoked out. Like we all looked like potheads because that whole section just had smoke hanging there. And then the other incident is...
Bro, have you ever tried hair? Man, it's really good.
Only Hector and I could relate to that in this room. Don't get it.
No, maybe we smoked all our hair, dude.
You never know, man.
Maybe.
And then in 2010, I went to see the All Blacks play in Auckland against the Wallabies. And I'll never forget, when something's going off in a crowd, because everybody just looks that way, right? So all of a sudden we notice that everybody's looking to our left. And the way that rugby's set up, so we were kind of sitting, say, in American football terms, around the 20-yard line. So we're kind of near the end zone. And everybody all of a sudden is looking left. And I look to the left, and there's a guy in an All Blacks jersey. It's kind of in just past the end zone. A guy in an All Blacks jersey, and the guy standing beside him in the crowd is wearing a Wallabies jersey, and they are just jerseying each other, just pounding the snot out of each other. And I just went, and then we saw security. They run down, right? I swear, if you had looked 10 minutes later, they didn't get ejected. These two had their arms around each other. They're like, woo! This was the greatest thing they had ever seen. But yeah, like it was the funniest thing. And if you've ever been, like, we as North Americans are not used to like segregation during games. But in Europe, I mean, Patrick can, testify to this. If you go to a football, like a soccer match, the visiting team fans sit in their own section. Yep. They're not, you're not all spread out. So I wasn't sure what to expect in Auckland, but I remember getting there and, like people had traveled over from South Africa to see the match. I mean, I was there from Canada and yeah, it was like everybody was everywhere. And I just remember these two guys just going at it. And 10 minutes later, they're the best of friends. They're like swaying with each other. So I'm assuming they had a couple wobbly pops before. But
the magic of alcohol.
Absolutely. They were best buddies by the rest of the game. So
wow. Nice.
I was going to say the U.S. has a different type of segregation.
Well, that's what I was thinking too.
When you said that, I was like, what? Granted, I've never been to one of those, but now I understand.
Nice.
I have a similar one, just to shoehorn with this a bit because of what Drew said. I went to the New England Patriots at one of the games this was probably 2015, 2014, that my father-in-law had tickets for. It had rained the whole game, so we're wearing like just thick, heavy ponchos and just watching this game in the freezing cold. And after the game ended, our seats my seat particularly was right in front of the railing where everyone just scuttles down, goes down, inclines down all the way to the garage. And all of a sudden, I'm getting out of my chair to get up and leave, and a 6-foot dude just falls in my lap, fell off the banister. He had fallen probably 15 feet and fell onto me, bounced off of me and fell on the cement floor. He was so drunk, he wasn't even moving. His buddy comes to his rescue. He's like, "I'm coming, Mike!" And then finds him. And then he's like, "Oh, yeah, my goodness. Didn't know if you were going to make it or not." And he's like, "Oh, I'm okay." He had gotten just completely shit-faced. And
that guy's name was Angie.
And I look over.
Married.
But I look over it because there's Angie, her father, and her mother, and they were all chatting. And I'm like, "Did you guys see that?" And they're like, "See what?" I'm like, "Okay, never mind." I'm not even going to try to explain what just happened.
And he did not even hurt you by falling on your lap.
No. So I had my arms out because I'm putting either putting it on or taking it off. And as my arms are out, he fell on them like, "Oh, hi." And then rolled off of my arms onto behind the chair is just a 3-foot section of cement. He just fell on that. So he fell another 2 feet to the ground and just laid there. And his buddy came to his rescue.
I think he went to like second base. Like,
yeah. I think I did.
Yeah, he was probably expecting you to carry him to the honeymoon suite or something.
Yeah. Like a bodyguard kind of situation.
Yeah.
We're gonna cute. I will always love you.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's the questions. We will move on to movies and TV right after this. Actually, this will be another episode. So see you next time in a few seconds. Thanks.